Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Mark. Citizens' comments? Okay. The next is the approval of the minutes of the May 5th, 2022 meeting. Counselor, are the minutes in order?
In order, Chairman.
Discussion amongst the commission? Hearing none, I'll take a motion.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve the minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. Now on to old business. Our first item is the election of officers. Jeff, what order do we need to go in here?
Typically, we'll do chairman and then vice chairman.
Okay, then we will open the floor for nominations for chairman.
I would like to nominate Tim Burrell as chairman.
Okay.
Second.
Any other nominations?
Yeah. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, all those in favor of nominating and electing Tim Morrell as chairman of the Planning Commission signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Tim Morrell's approved.
That was a close one.
Yeah, that was close. We'll next open.
Might need to recount, right?
We'll next open the floor for nominations for vice chairman of the Planning Commission.
I nominate Mark Atkins.
I have a nomination for Mark Atkins as vice chair. Do I have any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll close the nominations. All those in favor of approving Mark Atkins as vice chairman of the Planning Commission signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, so let's get into it now. We're on to rezoning requests. The first one has been deferred, so that will close that out, correct?
We probably do need to get a motion to defer one more month. I do believe they will be on the agenda next month and for you all to
So they've
consider.
requested that we defer it?
Yes.
Okay.
Motion to defer.
I have a motion to defer. Do I have a second? I have a motion and second to defer. Any further discussion or questions on the deferment? Hearing none, all those in favor of deferring this rezoning request signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This request has been deferred. We're next on to new business, annexation, zoning, and plan of service. My understanding is agenda item number 1 has had a request to defer also.
Actually, they have withdrawn that request.
So it has
completely.
withdrawn, so
It has
we
been withdrawn.
no action needed.
No
on
action
our end.
needed.
Okay, very good. Our next item under new business is Sean Collins, 8269 Rocky Fork, Almaville Road, annexation and R3 zoning request.
Yeah, this is a request for annexation and an R3 zoning, as you stated. This is at 8269 Rocky Fork, Almaville Road. It's a 1.1 acre parcel of land. The surrounding zoning is a mix of PRD, which is the Blakeney PRD and the Stewart's Glen PRD across the street, as well as RM in Rutherford County. Land use plan would support medium-density, single-family residential in this area. Major thoroughfare plan does show Rocky Fork Almaville Road as a minor arterial, so any development of this property would require dedication of adequate right-of-way. There is an existing house on this property, and CUD has indicated there is adequate infrastructure here to meet our fire flow requirements for residential development of 1,000 gallons per minute. So, that's really all that I have on this. Plan of services here. This is would be all services would be provided by the town except for water, which would be provided by CUD. This does adjoin the town really on 2 or really 3 sides. Everything except the south side. I guess that's all I've got. Staff would recommend approval.
Okay. Questions for Kevin or staff? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve with staff comments. Further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is approved. Our next agenda item is Matt Dowdle, Olive Tree Cottages, 6304 and 6588 Lee Road, annexation and PRD and R1 zoning request.
Yeah, this is an annexation request. It's two separate tracts of land that total 48.83 acres. The surrounding zoning is a mix of R3 and the PRD in town, which is three different PRDs, Olive Branch, Buckingham Hills, and Gwen Farms, and then RM in Rutherford County. Land use plan would support medium-density, single-family residential in this area. The major thoroughfare plan does show Lee Road as a collector, so development of this property will require adequate right-of-way to be dedicated along Lee Road. The plan also shows a collector connecting Lee Road to Rock Springs Road through a portion of this property. However, Dale Drive within the Gwen Farms development is being extended as a collector, and it would eventually connect to Lee Road, and so that really has taken the place of the one that is shown on the plan that would potentially affect this tract. There is also a road that's proposed within this development that would be stubbed to the west, and so it could connect in the future to Dale Drive when it is extended south, further southward from where it's currently built. Staff does recommend the annexation of approximately 2,356 linear feet of the existing right-of-way of Lee Road from the western border of parcel 8.11 east to the intersection with Montgomery Way. If these parcels are annexed, there's been several developments on the north side of Lee Road here, and where we did not annex the right-of-way. And as we continue to develop and receive requests for annexation along this road, we would anticipate further annexation in the future, and this would just kind of clean that area up and provide all those city streets are hitting that county road, and that way we can control any needed improvements and those kind of things as well. This requested PRD is for 88 single-family lots, and then there is about 3.63 acres of the annexed area would be zoned R1, which is the area on the map shown in red. The sewer will temporarily have to connect through Napa Valley until the Olive Branch sewer is constructed, and once that's done, the sewer would gravity out to the green space. Through the green space, there's a kind of a stream there through there that would connect and would connect to the Olive Branch sewer once that's completed. This is a development that we would recommend a traffic study be submitted, and that any recommendations for improvements that are made in the traffic study will be required to be constructed by the developer. That's typically submitted with the preliminary plat. CUD's infrastructure is not adequate to meet our fire flow requirements, and so because of that, the developer is proposing to put fire sprinklers in each home, which would allow for the lower fire flow. It would meet the fire code with the sprinkler requirement with fire flow that is out there. That is all of our comments. We have reviewed this a couple of different times as staff, and it has been changed quite a bit from the original submitted plan. But staff would, with this revisions, staff would recommend approval.
Kevin, I think I noticed that the garage setback was 35 feet. And it looks like our sides are 7.5. We're doing masonry products. So does this meet our PRD requirements that we've set?
Yes. Yeah, there'll be parking for 4 vehicles in the driveway in addition to whatever this parking is provided in the garage, but there will be 4 outside. So yeah, all of our requirements that we have put in place for parking, setbacks, et cetera, open space, all those requirements are met.
Yeah, I also noticed the HVAC systems were going to be in the rear.
That's correct.
Okay. questions for Kevin or staff or comments?
Kevin, you said the main road going in, will tie into Glen Farms, the one that runs straight through to the back, or the,
Actually, that one will not connect to Gwen Farms. The stub road to the west would eventually connect to Gwen Farms. There's a tract of land, a couple tracks in between, small tracks between,
the ones that are still in the county?
yes. It would actually, on the north side, it would connect, there's the Walnut Ridge development, which has only had the first phase approved. There is its concept plan had a stub street that would connect to that street, the main street that runs north from Lee Road to the back. So there would be a connection there as well. And then there's connection to the east at Napa Valley would also be there.
I was just thinking about if somebody wanted to go to Walden Road, they'd have to go through the Gwen Farms development to get there,
Yes,
which would take some traffic off of Lee Road and Cook's Lane and those.
right.
Do you know what they're planning on doing with the 363 acres out front for it to be zoned R1?
My understanding is there's one of the sellers one of the two track sellers, I believe, is gonna to build a house there, I believe is my understanding. The developer, their representatives are here, so you may know better, to answer that question.
Do you know if there's a current house on that property now?
Each
There-
track has a
two?
house on it.
Okay.
Right now, yes.
All right.
They would be removed as part of the development.
So potentially one of the current landowners would move to the front of that development on that parcel.
Yes.
And would the annexation be set up or have available the services that the town would provide?
Yes.
Other questions or comments?
Is it usual to have fire sprinklers put in a development like this?
Not a single family, no. It's certainly not in Smyrna at least. Now, in certain other jurisdictions, yes. I know there's been several in the county that have done that. If you can't have adequate flow, that is an option for folks if you don't have adequate fire flow. Adding a sprinkler system to a building, whether it's a house or a commercial building or whatever, lowers the requirement typically of the flow is required in the fire hydrant. So with single-family residential, it's 1,000 gallons per minute at 20 PSI. That lowers to 500 if you have sprinklers in the buildings. So, and they have about 600 here.
Kevin, could you recap what you mentioned about the traffic study and what are those implications to this parcel of land?
Yeah, we would require the traffic study again, prior to with the preliminary plat that's submitted for the first phase. And it would it may or may not require improvements, but we do want to see the study with Lee Road being essentially just a 2-lane road with ditch section type road. That's really the main issue is do you end up with a turn lane or something at Lee Road is most likely any outcomes it would hit. We would look at any intersections that we would scope that out with the engineer if this is approved. We would scope that out with the engineer as far as any intersections we'd want them to look at and where we'd want streets we would want to be sure they counted traffic or current traffic. But again, our recommendation here is that we're required to submit one and that any recommendations that come out of that they're required to build.
So you're comfortable with the density, you just want to know what to do with Lee Road and that particular intersection?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really it's a little less than 2 per acre. So
Yeah.
it's not a very high density product or proposal development.
Anything else? I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve staff comments.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve with staff comments. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'm sorry, was that a? Okay. This motion is approved. Our next agenda item is John Lee, property adjoining northwest corner of 14119 Old Nashville Highway, rezoning R4 to C2.
Yeah, this is a small tract of land, about 4/10 of an acre, is in between two tracks, one vacant commercial tract and the tract where Springhouse Church is located. Surrounding zoning is all C2. The land use plan would support the Sam Ridley corridor character area, which will, again, support a mix of retail and service uses, so this certainly would be consistent with our land use plan. No roads are affected with this request. The plan, this tract is owned by the tract that's, the vacant tract to the north has the same ownership. The plan is to combine this tract with that adjoining tract and develop as one parcel. This tract does not meet the minimum lot size of 20,000 square feet for C2, so staff did recommend that a combination plat be submitted prior to the effective date of the rezoning. Just so that way it would be consistent with our zoning ordinance requirement. If it's all one tract of land, then it would be, we would certainly would meet the minimum size requirement, lot size requirement. So, and with that, staff would recommend approval.
I was actually surprised when I saw this to see that we had an R4 zone still here.
Yeah. Well, the church had an R4 zoning, and somehow this truck piece was sold, and then they came in after they had sold the piece and asked for the rezoning to C2 a year or so ago now. And so this was left because they didn't own it any longer, so they couldn't request the zoning on it. So that's how it happened. But
Okay. Questions or comments?
If this becomes one parcel, Kevin, and they develop that, which I'm sure that's what's gonna happen, what's the accessibility to it?
that's something, it would not be any access to Sam Ridley Parkway at
It's
that
a
location.
Pretty good sized ditch out there right now.
Yeah,
in front of
and
it.
so it would not have, there would have to be access through one of the adjoining tracks. And that's something I think the developer's trying to nail down currently.
Well, I know with traffic, and I know it may change with Old Nashville Highway development, but going out of CVS or that side of the church is a absolute nightmare. That's gonna make it tough to put something in there for access unless he gets some right of way or,
Or potentially
out.
could access through to the west as well. I mean, that's a potential.
that would,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
that would come out on the property where that quick change lube is and everything, where you've got a light.
In the
Yeah.
Kroger shopping center, yes.
Yes, okay.
I was going to say, the current lot that you're talking about adjoining this to is, it does meet the threshold as far as 20,000 square feet.
Yes, yes.
So regardless of this zoning here, if it were approved, there's still that potential that the lot in front of it could develop as well, and we would be
Sure.
facing that ingress egress.
I think if the ingress egress had worked out, it probably would have already developed.
Yeah.
Yeah, with being at that location, on
So
Sam Ridley,
So for the commission's knowledge and for folks out there, typically, we would work this out during a site plan, correct?
Yeah, we would, before any site plan could be approved, certainly, the access will have to be worked out.
Okay.
And reviewed as a part of the site plan.
So
certainly.
for purposes tonight, we're deciding on whether or not to rezone this from R4 to C2.
Correct.
Okay. Other questions?
How big will that parcel be, Kevin, if they combine this and the front one?
This one's about 16,000, I think. That one's, it's not quite an acre, I don't think.
Okay.
So
So
it'll
with
be,
this,
it'll be over an acre once it's combined together.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the staff comments, including the special comment about having a combined plan, plat.
Okay. Okay. I have a motion to approve with staff.
I'll second.
And a second. Further discussion? All those in favor of approving signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion is approved. Kevin, the next item involving Mr. Roundtree, is that,
It has been withdrawn.
okay, so no action on our part?
Correct.
Okay. We are now on to final plats. The first item is the Gwynn Farms, Section 1, Phase 2, Robert Gwynn Drive, owner, developer, Lennar Homes of Tennessee, LLC.
Yes, this is a final plat for the next phase of Gwynn Farms. It's 31 lots on 6.89 acres. We had a few comments. One, just that no roads as shown on the thoroughfare plan are affected within this section, and for them to add the signatures of the owners prior to recording. Comment number 3, they had a note on the plat, which would be a kind of an extra setback beyond what's required in the PRD. We had just made a note that that's fine if they wanted to do that, but it would require, we have some requirements that's going to have to be shown as it goes through the building permits on these lots. They have actually come back and taken that note off, so we can remove that comment completely, which is fine. It's still consistent with the approved PRD, so it's not an issue. And then number 4 is really just an informational comment for them regarding the off-site sewer. They're still working on the off-site sewer, so that's why there's no building permits have been issued yet. So just for them, just a reminder that they can't get permits till the off-site sewer is completed. So with comments 1, 2, and 4, staff would recommend approval.
Okay, questions for Kevin? Are we good? I'll entertain a motion then.
Move to approve the staff comments.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the staff comments. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion is approved. Our next item is re-subdivision of Lot 1 Mullins property, northeast corner of Poplarwood Drive and Amelville Road. Owner, developer, Graybeard Partners, Hardik Patel.
Yeah, this is it's a plat for some property you all looked at for zoning a couple months ago, and the council did approve the rezoning from industrial to C2 at their last council meeting. This is 2 lots, it's 2.94 acres. Major thoroughfare plan shows Allenville Road as a minor arterial and Poplarwood and Road and Seminary as collectors. We did ask, and they did show adequate right-of-way there on Seminary Road. There was a little area that needed some right-of-way added. So that is shown on all 3 streets. Number 2, just for them to add the signatures of the owners and CUD prior to recording. Comment number 3, there is an ingress-egress easement shown across Lot 2 to serve Lot 1. It's actually Lot 3. It was shown as Lot 2 on the original copy of the plat, so I'll correct the comment there. I should have already done that. Apologize for that. It's actually Lot 3 to Lot 1. The reason for that is there's Lot 2 already to the north is Lot 2, so they had to change that. So And that is subject to the approval. There is the development, there's a site plan for this development on Lot 1 that is later on in your agenda that shows an access across Lot 3 to, and that would be the only access from Allenville Road for Lot 1 as well. Basically, that is subject, that ingress egress easement is subject to approval of the proposed access to Allenville Road by TDOT. And I just added the comment that this plat can't be recorded showing that easement until such approval has been obtained. And so, since that is, we'll certainly discuss that quite a bit when we get to the site plan. But as far as, for this purposes, it's just that easement, the easement part out of this. So I did want to recommend that as a condition of the plat approval. And then comments 4, 5, and 6 are CUD comments that would need to be addressed through CUD. So staff would recommend approval with all 6 comments.
Kevin, we had quite a bit of community concern with this related to traffic. Would we not have, or is there a requirement for a traffic study? Did we discuss that, or?
There is, as typically with the site plan, which is on your agenda
We're
later.
going to see that a little bit.
Yeah. And so that is certainly, something was discussed at the council quite a bit regarding any development of this site. Of course, at that time, we knew the intent was a gas station. That is the site plan that's on your agenda is for a convenience store gas station. So from a plat standpoint, like I said, my main concern, everything is good with the plat other than that access easement, which is fine as long as TDOT would approve the access. And at this time, that's not been done yet. They have talked to TDOT, and there's been discussion with TDOT about an access there. I don't think there's been a formal approval. I think TDOT somewhat is waiting on the town's approval of the site plan before they approve the access. They want to make sure we're good with the access, proposed access, before they approve the
Okay,
the
so
actual
for
permit.
our consideration before us, our scope on this is limited to approval of this re-subdivision of the plat, correct?
Correct. And if,
So that's what we would be,
that's all you're approving at this point is the plat itself. You're not approving any development on the property other than creating this property line in between these two and the easements that are shown. The access, if for some reason that access goes away, then the plat, really the easement would go away as well. And so you would be looking at the plat would not, the easement would have to be removed before the plat could be recorded.
okay. So is it staff's recommendation as far as this re-subdivision goes, that you're comfortable with it with staff comments?
Correct.
Okay. Other questions?
So just to be clear, we're going to have more discussion on this when it's appropriate, and right now, in and of itself, we're only discussing the re-subdivision. I just want to make sure our citizens and everyone else is clear on that. Okay, all right.
Other questions or comments? Hearing none, do I have a motion?
Move to approve with staff comments.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve with staff comments. Any further discussion? All those in favor of approving signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion is approved. Okay, now we are on to site plans, and our first agenda item is Andy's Frozen Custard, West Sam Ridley Parkway, owner, developer, Walder Vester Family Limited Partnership.
This is a site plan for Andy's Frozen Custard, proposing to develop a little over 2,000 square foot building within the Stone Trace commercial subdivision. The location has road frontage along Needham Drive and is located halfway between the Sam Ridley Parkway and Genie Lane. The site would have two access points provided via 30-foot ingress and egress easement, which also provides access to the proposed Dutch Brothers development located south of this site. As proposed, the site has adequate stacking for approximately 11 vehicles through the drive-through, and if additional stacking were to occur, it wouldn't back up onto the main drive of Needham. Vehicular use area for the site, 16,054 square feet, which would require landscaping square footage of 1,605 square feet. Applicant is showing for 4,481 square feet. Parking required, 21 spaces, they're showing for 28, and that requires 2 handicap spaces, and they're showing those 2 as well. Landscape plan shows street trees and shrubbery planted along Needham Drive with additional landscaping planted in landscape islands and around the building. Architectural elevations submitted show the building to be built primarily with the material of brick and glass and glazing. A canopy is shown over the front of the building with a composite panel. We had a couple standard comments, all to remain for this, and then a couple staff comments to go over. Staff comment 1 was a concern with the fire department using auto turn throughout the site. At this time, fire department is not satisfied with the auto turn that has been submitted. The auto turn shows the fire truck backing up onto the site in order to complete a turn. Fire department does not want to be able to back up onto a site. They want to be able to make a fluent turn throughout the site. So we ask that the developer or architect work on reworking the auto turn throughout the site to accommodate for the fire department. Comment 2, we had to ask them to move the fire hydrant along Needham Drive. They have done so. Comment 3 was a utilities comment. Comment 3 and 4 are actually utilities comments about existing stub out for sewer service, and that the irrigation line needs to come off a reuse line, which is along Genie Lane. So those comments will remain. Comment 5, we asked them to show the square footage of the canopy. They have done so. It's about 916 square feet. So we can remove comments 2 and 5 at this time. Comments 1, 3, and 4 will remain. And with that, staff will recommend approval with those comments.
Mitchell, you may not be able to answer this. Can they meet the fire approval with a turn? If we approve it like it is and they can't meet it, then what happens?
They've got to rework it to meet fire department's auto turn requirements. I don't know how the engineer plans on doing that. It's something that they can probably work through with fire department. I'm no engineer, so I don't know how they can do that, but it's something that we feel the fire department could work through with them to accommodate.
I guess my concern is, can it be done with what's there?
We'll have to change something and it may end up having to come back to you or something like that.
That's-
Yeah. We're okay with staff working through with them on that, if you all are.
You said they've already changed it once and resubmitted and it still wasn't correct.
They had one submittal showing a garbage truck working through it instead of the fire truck, so the second revision showed the fire truck, and this is where we're at today.
Okay.
Is it one entrance or both entrances that we have concern about?
I believe it's the rear entrance, the one that connects back nearest to Dutch Brothers.
Other questions? We have in the past voted on a plan that, where we had some issues that you guys in the fire department have worked out, correct? And I think as Kevin said, if it were approved and we can't work that out, we'd have to have a resubmission, correct, Kevin? Okay.
Is there anyone here that may be able to explain some plans for update?
I'm with SEC, the design consultant. First, we used the Smyrna fire truck for the fire truck simulation for the truck turn, and this simulator is extremely conservative. It accounts for everything, and it assumes that the fire truck will drive at 5 mile per hour speed. That's why it shows that the truck has to back up. With this, we can slide the entrance location or change the radius of the curb to make the truck complete a full turn without the backup. So it's doable, and we can make this work.
So what you're saying is you'll work with the fire department to get
Yes,
that
sir.
correct?
We'll
Okay.
work with the fire department and submit the plans with a full truck turn with no backup, basically.
Okay.
My concern was, could it be done with the plat that's here, and what you're telling me it can be?
It
It's just a matter of,
It can be done. So the only reason why it backs up, the tire runs over the curb, and we can change the radius of this curb or reduce the width of the island and add some channelization striping, so that the tire will basically go on the pavement and not on the curb.
All right. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anything else from the commission? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve staff comments.
I have a motion to approve with staff comments. Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second to approve with staff comments. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's approved. Our next item is Eli Waldron Boat and RV Storage, 109 Threed Industrial Road, owner developer Eli Waldron.
Waldron's proposing a boat and RV storage facility at 113 Threet Industrial Road. The facility would contain 70 storage units as designed. The property was rezoned from I-2 to I-1 during the April 2022 council meeting. The proposed building sizes are to be 22,050 square feet and 14,705 square feet, which would yield a total of 36,755 total square feet of building on this property. In its current state, there are two properties, and the applicant has submitted a final plat to combine these two properties, and that will need to be done recorded prior to the issuance of a building permit. As proposed, there would be one access point off of Threed Industrial Road as well. Vehicle use area for the site, 41,269 square feet, which would require landscaping of 3,301 square feet. A little bit of confusion on staff's part and the engineer's part to determine exactly how much square footage landscaping is present at the site. Staff believes the engineer is overestimating the amount of landscaping that is present at the site. We did a couple calculations today in-house to try to determine exactly how much square footage landscaping is at the site, and staff does believe that they are exceeding the requirement. We're just not sure exactly what it's at right now, but we are fine with it meeting the requirement as it stands. Landscape plan does show trees and shrubs, which are lined along Threed Industrial Road and Sam Ridley Parkway. Trees are shown along the perimeter of the site as well behind each of those two buildings. Architectural elevations have not been submitted. We did receive just pictures essentially of similar designed self-storage buildings that the applicant has presented to us. They do show primarily metal buildings, and that's what we have received at this time. So we do still want to see actual architectural elevations submitted to us to ensure they are meeting design review. We had a couple of standard comments, 1 through 5, all to remain. And then staff comments to go through. Comment 1, the plat, as mentioned earlier, will need to be submitted and recorded before the building permits can be issued to combine these two lots. Comment 2, we asked them to submit building elevations showing the percentage of materials to be used, and this must meet design review. Metal siding is allowed in industrial zones, as this is. Allowed as the primary material is metal where it is not visible from an arterial street. So Sam Ridley Parkway is a principal arterial street, which means you can't have metal as the primary material on that side, being able to be visible from Sam Ridley. The applicant notes that the buildings will be primary metal with a 4-foot brick base on the ends of the units. As described, it will not meet the design review. Buildings surrounding this property are also primarily a brick material, so the metal wouldn't really fit the area per se compared to those surrounding buildings. It would kind of stick out a little bit. So as presented though, it's not meeting design review, and we still haven't seen actual architectural elevations yet at this time either. Comment 3 was regarding the auto turn maneuvering throughout the site. Fire department has okayed that at this time, so comment 3 can be removed. Comment 4, we asked them, utilities comment to submit a full set of utilities plans, and that can be reviewed at that time by the utilities department. Comment 5, fire hydrant within 400 feet of all points of the structures. We're going to revise that comment a little bit. Fire department has notified us that they would like either a access drive going behind that northern longer building to provide adequate support to that. This is assuming that the buildings are enclosed. Once again, we haven't received architectural elevations yet, so we don't know exactly if these buildings are open or if they're enclosed. If they are enclosed, they do need access behind the building. So this comes back to the two options. We got option A for them to use a drive aisle behind the building, or option B, they can basically split this longer unit into two down the middle. So you probably remove 2 units is my guess. And that would also provide access to them to go behind those buildings, either which is up to the owner and developer to determine. Comment 6, we asked them to show and label the minimum building setback lines. They have done so. Comment can be removed. Comment 7 was adding landscaping along 3 Industrial and Sam Ridley Parkway to meet streetscaping requirements. They have done so. So comment 7 can be removed. Comment 8 was regarding the vehicular use area for the site. It's shown a couple different amounts on the different pages, and that comment has been addressed. Comment 9 that goes back to the landscaping comment. We're assuming that the engineer is still including grass as the landscaping requirement, which does not count towards landscaping. So just asking the engineer to come to a better determination of the total square footage of landscaping at the site. There was another comment. Fire Department 1 noted that the fire hydrant that is located south of the southern unit is basically on the property line right now of that southern track with those 2 buildings and this track. That hydrant may not be enclosed on because that hydrant does service other buildings. If you enclose it, you can't use it for other fire suppression services. So more or less a informational comment on that one, but the hydrant may not be enclosed. With that, all these comments that have arisen since the previous submittal, staff would recommend deferral of this to give the applicant adequate time to address the remaining comments that we have due to fire department concerns and then architectural elevation as well.
And did I understand, we don't know if this is an open concept or closed or partially closed?
The elevations, the pictures we have received show enclosed, but until we have actual elevations submitted, we are unsure.
Any other questions for Mitch?
Mitchell, did y'all say y'all did go on the site? Have y'all been on site?
Driven past it, not
Okay.
recently though.
So the Sam Ridley Parkway, your vision there, it's gonna encompass a lot of that property,
Yep.
a lot of it, because it's with the exposure. Okay.
Other questions?
Kevin, talking about that visibility in the classification of any kind of buffer, is that necessary? What level would we be looking at if so?
There's actually no buffer required here. It's all industrial and
Because it's
commercial
industrial.
around it. So
I'm talking about the visibility.
But I mean, if they wanted to, it would have to be a pretty extensive berm and trees to hide it, because, I mean, if it's right at, I mean, it borders Sam Ridley Parkway, so it'd be pretty,
Classification, or
yeah, that'd be, D is our most extensive, which is typical, would be required if you had, you know, industrial backing up to, say, a residential development or something like that, which we've had once or twice, so, it's the thickest, widest buffer as well as on a berm, so it's, but, I don't know if, I mean, eventually it probably might hide it. I'm trying to think through, it seems like you're the road's a little above the site at that location, so it might take a little while for it to grow up tall enough. But
and I think with no elevation submitted, it makes it a little difficult to tell what we're looking at, so.
yeah, I mean, we've got the pictures and the description, but we don't have any actual, we don't know how tall the buildings are or anything like that.
Gentleman standing up, I take it you want to speak, I'll recognize you, if you'll give me your name and address.
Eli Waldron, 415 West Northfield Boulevard, Murfreesboro, Tennessee. I'll address what I can. So regarding the elevations, we did not have time to get those renderings done and submitted. And we also were not aware, I don't believe, of the requirement on the Sam Ridley side. But to pacify that, we are, of course, willing to do a brick or block wall there that fronts Sam Ridley. And regarding the fire note to the back of the north buildings, we could absolutely split, that building in two and lose 2 units there to allow better access for fire. And they are, it was supposed to be submitted, it may not have gotten submitted in time, but they are fully enclosed buildings. So it will be a gated complex with fully enclosed units that are individually lockable. They will all have some form of electricity with, like a motion sensor light and a little outlet to maintain a battery and that sort of thing. But it will be a gated facility in all enclosed units.
So a roll-up type door,
That's correct.
okay. Any other questions for Mr. Waldron while he's up here? Thank you, sir. Mark, if I'm hearing your concern, it concerned buffering and how the design review would be laid out since we are on a major thoroughfare and continue to develop Sam Ridley. Is that where you're
Well, the
at?
visible portion of it,
Yeah.
I think, is the concerning part. It's not so much, I know it's an industrial zone, and so, the zoning allows them certain materials, but just from a visibility perspective, I want to make sure we sort of protect that. I'm glad to hear they're all enclosed. I'm glad to hear they're willing to make that end look better than perhaps we know it does or doesn't. We haven't seen anything. I'm still a little uncomfortable because staff recommends they'd rather see deferral for them to do their job and then for us to be able to see the product as well. So a couple unanswered questions I think that will probably get resolved, sound like they will, but due to staff's recommendations, that's the road I would travel right now. So.
Okay. Other questions or comments? Mitchell, and your preference is to have this deferred?
Yeah, based on the concerns for the fire department and the architectural elevations, we would feel more comfortable having a chance to take a look at it next month and bring it back to you with a more completed product.
Any other questions?
I will, if you're ready for a motion.
I am
I'll make
ready for a motion.
To defer based on staff recommendation.
I have a motion to defer based on staff recommendation. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to defer. Any further discussion? All those in favor of deferring this item signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This item has been deferred. Okay, next we have Stewart Creek Station, northeast corner of Poplar Wood Drive and Amable Road. Owner, developer, Graybeard Partners, Hardik Patel.
Yeah, this is Stewart Creek Station. This is the site plan for the plat that y'all looked at fairly recently. This is a convenience store with a gas station that is proposed for the property located on the corner of Seminary Road, Poplar Wood Road, and Owenville Road. The property was rezoned from industrial C2 last month at the council meeting. The proposed building is to be 4,500 square feet in size. A final plat has been submitted to subdivide the property. As proposed, there would be 2 access points, Seminary Road and Almanville Road. The applicant is proposing that access onto Almanville Road, which is a TDOT roadway, and an agreement will also need to be coordinated between the owner and TDOT to create this access point, which was alluded to earlier. A vehicular use area for the site, 46,456 square feet, which would require 4,646 square feet of landscaping. Applicant is showing for 5,200 square feet. Total parking required of 45 spaces, and they are showing for 57 spaces. Handicap parking space requires of 3, and they are showing for 3 as well. Landscape plan shows a variety of maple trees along the 3 road frontages with shrubbery planted around the perimeter of the site, and trees are also shown within landscape islands. Architectural elevations submitted show the building to be built primarily with materials of brick and glass glazing and a secondary material of CMU block. The building is proposed to be built with 82% primary materials, which would meet design review standards. Standard comments 1 through 5, all to remain on this one. One thing to highlight on there is a minimum right-of-way dedication of 30 foot from the center line on Seminary Road is to be shown. Staff comments 1 through 13 to go through. Comment 1 and 2 are more so informational. Comment 1, an entrance shown off of Almanville Road, which is State Road 102. The current gravel drive at this location has not been permitted by TDOT. If a full entrance is to be requested, a left turn lane on Almanville Road will be required. If this left turn lane is not built, a right in or right out will be allowed. TDOT approval will be required for the entrance and meet all of TDOT's design standards. Comment 2, a traffic study will be required. Any traffic counts must be made during a time when Rutherford County schools are in session. Any improvements recommended by the traffic study must be completed by the developer. Staff would recommend that this study be submitted prior to approval of the site plan by the Planning Commission. Comment 3, we have a deficiency of the handicap parking spaces at the site, and they have shown 3 to meet that requirement now, so comment 3 can be removed. Comment 4 is utilities comment for a sewer service needed to go into the manhole, and they haven't shown that. Comment 4 can be removed. Comment 5, we asked the applicant to ask CUD if the 8-inch water line is active. If so, to put an extra hydrant near the dumpster in the grass area. Comment 6, we asked them to show a 6-inch cleanouts placed every 75 foot on the sewer line, and they have done so comment 6 can be removed. Comments 7 through 13 are all CUD comments. So with that, comments 3, 4, and 6 can be removed. With that, staff would recommend one of 2 options. Option 1 is to recommend approval with the remaining comments if the commission feels comfortable with staff reviewing the traffic study and requiring the developer to implement the recommendations as a result of the traffic study when it is submitted to staff. Or option 2, to staff recommend deferral until the traffic study is submitted, at which point the commission could review the traffic study before making a final decision on this product.
Well, I'll state this again. We received a lot of emails, several phone calls concerned with the traffic and what impact this would do. I'm particularly concerned with the entrance where how it's located there just north of is that a private drive there that I'm looking at, Kevin, Mitch? The entrance.
On the Seminary Road?
Yeah, on Seminary Road.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, there's a private driveway that goes to the building to the north there. It's that existing building that there's.
That's the old recycling center.
That's the recycling center. It's a different company, different use now, but yes, it's that location. That's a private drive for Seminary Public Street.
So it's located near the curve there in the roadway, as
Yeah.
it curves around. I just know
There's
that
a lot of
that there was a
slight
lot of
curve, yeah.
concern, particularly with school and with the other development there. I know we've got the Amable Road corridor study coming up that could potentially have an impact. For me personally, I think that we need to make sure that we get this right as far as the traffic flow goes. And so, for me, I'm in favor of deferral at this point until we have a traffic study. And I think it's entirely appropriate and critical that this be done when school's in session.
Kevin, how long do you think it would take for TDOT to respond to this request?
Well, they've actually, I know I've already had some discussions with TDOT. I mean, and some of the comments, like, a big part of that comment number one is really, TDOT has looked at it and they had said that the only way they could ever approve a full access was if there isn't a left turn lane added. And so that's where the last part of comment number one comes from. But they are, somewhat waiting on us to see how we feel about it as far as that access and what the traffic study would show as well. There was a lot of concern from the neighbors, certainly. There is my concern, the location they're showing the access to Allenville Road is probably the only place that could be done because of where you have the turn lane, the right turn lane there, and you obviously don't want to have people turning left in and out when there's people coming into a right turn lane, certainly. And you referenced we are in the process. We're in a contract with a consultant who's working on looking at the Amable Road corridor, really from I-24 all the way to Highway 96, really, and looking at that whole stretch and potential improvements that we may want to do and big picture, and it certainly would be done a piece at a time. Certainly wouldn't be looking at the whole road at one time, but and some areas, the things that from a safety standpoint is congestion and helping relieve congestion, different things. And so certainly that's not completed yet. It's getting close to being completed. We're certainly closer to the end than we are at the beginning, but we don't have a final recommendations yet on that. And certainly have just our last meeting on that study, we actually brought TDOT in, so we're working through that with TDOT as well. So, so I think that's that, as well as just a traffic study on this particular site as an individual study as well. We felt like it needed to be looked at before certainly anything with the study being completed when the schools are in session, so you have all that extra traffic that's not there. Like right now, it's not there. So even if you all were to approve it, they couldn't really do anything until that study was done in September, October anyway. So, I mean, it really is not going to help them a whole lot.
It's not really a big difference in time
For them moving forward on the site, really out of the recommendation.
Schools will be back in August.
Well, they'll count traffic in
Yeah.
late August. And so it'll be September or so, probably, before they could get the study completed. If you all had approved it with pending, that they wouldn't have to hit a deadline and come back to you, but it wouldn't save them a tremendous amount of time, really, as far as getting started on the project, because they really can't get a permit till they have an approval from you anyway, so.
Did we envision maybe the potential for TDOT to put a signal somewhere along that corridor closer towards the residential portion in this traffic study? I mean, how would that work? In other words, you've got Belmont and Stewart Creek Farms across the street, or Stewart Creek,
Preserve Stewart Creek.
And then you've got Twin Creeks and Milesdale Lane and all that there. There's no signal at 1 mile. Is there one coming that we know of?
We are working on
There
that.
is one coming at 1
There
mile.
was coming at one, we are working on that one.
Okay, so
The town is working on that one. 1
hypothetically,
mile.
there'll be a break in that traffic with another signal at 1 mile,
Sure,
hypothetically.
yeah.
But you'll still have, as you said, two to three subdivisions feeding into it even between the two
Right,
lights.
between it. I'm just curious if, because that ingress egress onto Almaville right now would be tricky. You know, right now it'd be very tricky without a signal further up.
Well, being that that intersection backs up as well, because you've got the light there.
I'm like Chairman here. I think I'd prefer rather to see more that we're not seeing than I would. I think, in my opinion, anyway, it's better that we,
Too many unknowns.
it's too many unknowns, yeah.
If this TDOT doesn't approve that and that disappears, then that's gonna change the whole dynamics of the site. Because then you've got another entrance somewhere, which just, it's not gonna work without it. They're showing a left and right turn out of there, and I think we had discussed it last month, that you'd almost not need to turn back towards town because you're coming across actually 3 lanes of traffic with that turn lane.
How do you assure that if it does become a right in and right out only, what do you put in place?
Some kind of buffer up there to keep them going out.
You have
Because-
to put like a concrete curve or something like that to discourage people
Yeah.
doing,
Because
making
that
left
doesn't work
turns.
well on Old Nashville Highway.
It's not working at Dunkin' Donuts.
It's not working at Firehouse Subs.
Those people work at Donuts, man, I'm telling you. They're jumping that curve often.
You're here with Huddleston Steel. I'll recognize you. Just name and address, please.
Chris McGuire, Huddleston Steel, 2115 Northwest Broad Street. I appreciate y'all's time. We have come through with this one without a traffic study. We tried to slide one in, but unfortunately we couldn't get the counts in time during school time. We did try. We do have one already lined up so that we'll have hopefully traffic counts in early August and hopefully have a study early September. What this approval would do for us, it would allow us to start talking some feasibility with TDOT and start kind of trying to plan some turn lanes and help us with timing. I mean, it really will allow us to go ahead and start turning over these stones and get us at least a few months ahead of schedule. If we're waiting until planning submission in September, say, if we have a study in time, then we'll be just then starting the process to talk with TDOT about what they think about the access and the possible improvements, and even discussing with staff the traffic concerns. It sounds like it's primarily a school issue, which is coming down Poplarwood, if I understand correctly. And the improvements that this project could provide are fairly minimal. There's 2 lighted intersections, so it's not like we can propose another light. Coming down southwest down Amaville Road, we can't really provide our right decel lane because you'd have people bumping into that decel lane just to bump back out thinking that they were in the Poplar Wood turn lane. So as far as improvements go, I'm not too sure what in the way of improvements this development's going to be able to provide, but our client's happy to do the traffic study and meet anything that the study recommends, but it's just where the site is. I mean, besides doing the left turn lane that we said that we would do if TDOT will allow a full access. As far as alleviating the traffic concerns, I don't foresee this development bringing additional traffic. It's good. Gas stations are opportunistic. You're driving past it, you pull off, you get a snack and fill up your car. Most of the time, people don't go out of their way to go to a specific station. So that's the reason why we came before you, is we didn't feel like this development is a huge residential development or a big commercial development that's just going to have a ton of traffic production. We felt it was going to be minimal, and we were happy to still meet any recommendations per the study. But that's why we came before you. I'm happy to answer any other questions if we have any.
I think the scenario you described is kind of cart before the horse for us as well, right? You want our approval to go to TDOT, yet we want to see what TDOT says before we approve. So, I mean, that's kind of the dilemma we're in, right? Is if TDOT doesn't agree to do this, and as you said, you don't have a lot of working options here, we may not like your options. And so we don't want to give you that approval to say we're going to just accept whatever you can work out with them. So that's where I feel about it.
I completely understand. I actually had to bring staff into the meeting to get TDOT to even speak with me about it because they said, well, planning hasn't approved it. I said, well, no, you're correct. They're asking for your approval. He said, well, I won't talk with y'all unless I have a staff present. So I had to get staff involved to even discuss it with them. So we've tried to do as much due diligence as possible. And if that access can't be provided, I mean, I feel like our client would be willing to come back through with another plan. I mean, I think that we'd be happy to make that as a stipulation that if access is denied, then we must come back before you with another plan. Because, I mean, we'll obviously have to figure out something else.
Anything else? Thank you. Mitchell or Kevin, has staff's position changed?
I mean, I've had that conversation with Chris already. I mean, I think based on the discussion at the council meeting and the discussion from some of the neighbors, I just feel more comfortable, I think, seeing it before you all make a decision on it.
Okay. I need a motion.
A motion to defer.
I have a motion to defer. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and second to defer.
Clarification, we're deferring until the
Till
study's complete.
traffic
We're not
study.
saying next month. We're saying-
Specifically number 2.
Yeah, until studies can be submitted.
As staff recommended, correct?
Right.
We're good, Counselor?
You're good. Number 2 is 10.
Okay. I have a motion and a second to defer. Do I have any further discussion? All those in favor of approving the deferral signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? This motion's been deferred. Okay, we are on to the June bond review report.
First one is Lee Bowman subdivision. Everything's complete on that. It is the end of the maintenance period, so we can release that one. The next one is the small escrow we have for Ryan Smith Properties. Did talk to them, and they are hopefully we'll be able to do that early next year. So we did recommend an extension on that one. One more time. Alta Vista, they did talk with them. They are, hopefully we'll have the final topping on that within 2 to 4 weeks. And that was a week ago that we were told that. So we would, if they are able to do that before the expiration date of July 10th, we can reduce that to $10,000 and start that 1-year maintenance period. Otherwise, extend 6 months at the same amount. Cantrell Farms, this is the end of the maintenance period on that one. They said they would we'll try to get those completed by that July 11th expiration date. So if they are able to do that, we would recommend release. Otherwise, to extend that one until they get it completed. And then Stone Trace, resub of Lot 3, we can reduce that one to $10,000 and extend it 1 year as the maintenance bond.
Okay, questions for Kevin concerning the bond review report?
Kevin, not to get into too deep a conversation about this, but are you guys reviewing our bond amounts? I mean, especially in light of increased costs and what we talked about a couple of months ago about some of these items, the bonds wouldn't cover the work.
We do. I mean, in the past, we've had the issues and certainly, and it's always difficult to get, once we get a bond in place, to get an increased amount. We can ask, but in reality, we're kind of somewhat beholden. And so if for some reason we do have to call one and it's not adequate, we do have the remedy. We can always go after the developer for something if we need to through a lawsuit. But But yeah, we certainly do review those amounts. For the most part, we really don't have anybody who's walking away from their commitments, and they're completing the work, and we're not in any of these where we're looking at, we may need to call them or anything like that.
Well, but we've got some that are
We do have a few.
very old.
We do. We do have a few.
And we haven't gotten in the situation of where we had to call it because we keep extending it.
Right. And because we always want the developer to get the work done, obviously. That's certainly our preference. We don't want to put the city in the point of being a contractor completing their work for them. And
Especially
so-
for the bond amounts when they wouldn't cover it.
Right. Well, and the developers,
Right.
and these, we don't have anybody that I'm worried is going to walk away from a project or anything like that and leave us hanging. I really don't think we're in that situation where we have somebody, where we have that situation. So that's why I feel comfortable extending them to give them a few more months to get the work done, because I don't think anybody's going to walk away. And they're having the same issues that we are, as getting supply to get the work done sometimes. Concrete is getting tougher to get and things like that, so.
Anybody else?
Are there standard increments on when you reduce the bonds down to 10,000? Is that standard? Is that, or could you reduce them to 15, or to try to, if somebody does take off, do we have an extra $5,000? Or is that a standard 10 that we go to?
10's we go, because we're at the maintenance bond at that point. Everything's pretty much done. Usually, the only thing that might be outstanding would be they haven't submitted their as-built yet, potentially. Often it's even that we have those. So it's really just that 1-year maintenance period where we want to make sure that we get a year of people driving on the asphalt and there's nothing pumps up or whatever. So we've never had an issue where typically they go back and fix it themselves anyway. So that is kind of a standard thing we look at. Usually it's about 10. That's actually an increase. We used to do 5, actually. So
it's nothing set that it's got to go to 10?
no, there's nothing
Yeah,
that
okay.
that's got to go to 10. That's just typical what we do.
All right.
Anything else? Do I have a motion?
Move to approve the bond report.
I have a motion to approve the bond report. Do I have a second?
Second.
A motion and second to approve the bond report. All those in favor of approving this signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The June bond review report has been approved. Staff comments?
I don't have anything tonight.
Staff? Nothing? Chief, you good?
Great.
Good to know. Anything from the commission?
Congratulations on our chairperson and vice chairperson's elections.
Thank you. Anything
Great
else?
campaign.
Couldn't have happened to two nicer guys.
Great campaign.
We might add Steve Steele.
Go ahead.
Well, Steve with Huddleston Steel lost his mom today, we understand, so just condolences to the family. Steve, I think, is pulling back from Huddleston Steel a little bit anyway. Chris was here tonight on their behalf. But if Steve's,
He's retired.
yeah.
He's actually retired.
He's done, so.
Yeah, he's retiring. Yeah.
Well, we think a lot of Steve. Tim and all, some of us have grown up with Steve and graduated with Steve, and he's lost his mom, so we want to give our condolences to that.
Thank you. Anything else? We stand adjourned.